Good morning, everyone. It's been our practice, as we've done online services these last couple of years, to gather and say a prayer before we begin the service. And so we'll do that this morning, just to take a breath and arrive where we are. So I invite all of us to take a breath together, just to breathe in and out, to welcome those who are in person here. There's people behind me. And those who are online today. And as we gather in all the ways that we gather now, may our hearts open with gratitude for all of those ways and how we support each other. As we breathe together, the breath of life, the breath of connection. May we feel that breath throughout our bodies. And as we gather today, may our minds be open, our hearts be open, and our hands be open to welcome spring, to welcome each other, and to welcome all that is here with us this morning. Please come in. Do come in. With gratitude for each of you and for who we are as a community. Thank you, and thank you for being here. Amen.
Good morning. It's good to see all of you today, whether you are joining us here in person or online. I'm Jo Celine, OUUC Media Specialist. I use Z/Zir pronouns. This Zoom service is being recorded and it is streaming live to YouTube. For those of you in the sanctuary today, please turn the sound off on any devices you have, or just turn those off altogether. Please also note that you can see the subtitles and you will be able to view the chat during the Sharing from the Heart section of the service on the screen at the front of the room. For those of you online, I hope you will find a candle or a chalice, and in a moment we can light them together. Thank you all for your grace and adaptability as we all remember it's about connection, not perfection.
Good morning. You can't imagine how happy I am to be in the sanctuary this morning. I know. Let's sing our morning song, which is out of the gray hymnal, hymn number 311, Let It Be a Dance. And if you're joining online, you can find the lyrics posted in the chat. I invite you to rise in body and or spirit, and let's sing together. is born, the old must die. A time for joy, a time to cry. Take it as it passes by. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you. Through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. The morning songs come out at night. Without the dark there is no light. If nothing's wrong then nothing's right. So let it be a dance. Oh, let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Share the laughter, bear the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance. Thank you for singing.
Good morning. Welcome to the Olympia Unitarian Universalist Congregation Worship Service. Our OUUC community comes together in the mutual promises and possibilities of our covenant. We envision an interconnected world that is loving, just, and healthy. We commit to work toward our mission to welcome and wonder, embrace and empower, bridge and become. Thank you for being with us today. My name is Ann Radford. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a member of the worship arts team. Leading worship with me today is our minister, Reverend Mary Gear, and Troy Fisher, our music director. We're grateful to all who helped make worship happen this morning. Thanks to our ushers and greeters, our breakout room hosts, tech team members, and the youth staffing the nursery, eager for the return of the young ones, and all who contribute in so many ways. If you're new to OUUC, welcome. We'd love to stay in touch. You can fill out a visitor card at the link in the chat or talk to a greeter. After the service, everyone will have a chance to discuss the reflection questions offered by Reverend Mary. This is a time to connect with a small group to check in, catch up, and reflect on the service. For those online, we invite you to join a breakout room for a virtual discussion. Each breakout discussion is hosted by someone to ensure we know each other and have a chance to share. On April 10th, we welcome Reverend Dr. Jay Atkinson to the OUUC pulpit. He lives in Berkeley and will join us virtually for the service and an after-service forum. This service for Palm Sunday is titled, How Jesus and the Universalists Got It Right, and will highlight the Christian roots of Unitarians and Universalists, asking, what does this history teach us today as we look back at our UU journey within and then away from Christianity on this Palm Sunday? Following the service, he will offer a forum called Trying Once Again to Say Who We Are. We encourage you to join a discussion wherever you are. We'll offer a sanctuary blessing today from noon until 12:30. Come and bless this space with your presence. The blessing will offer the chance to gather inside or outside as you are comfortable. The event will not be live streamed. For those who attend the morning service, we'll have hot beverages outside until noon. For those online who might want to come in person, there's a bit of time for travel. OUUC's Director of Community and Faith Development, Sarah Lewis, will be ordained as an interfaith chaplain on April 9th at 1 p.m. You can register to attend the ceremony virtually using the link in the chat, or you can come to the OUUC sanctuary, which will be open to anyone who wants to watch it together. Okay, sorry, I got a little mixed up here. So there are many opportunities to stay connected. Please check the website regularly. If you have questions or need help, please check in with a staff member. Now, let us open our hearts and minds as we prepare for worship. Welcome, everyone. It is good to be together. This morning and every Sunday morning, we join Unitarian Universalist congregations around the world in lighting a chalice, the symbol of our faith tradition. Please join me as we light our chalices together with these words by Erica Hewitt. We light this chalice, symbol of all that we are, all that we have done together, and all that we will be as our shared ministry encourages those within and beyond our walls.
Good morning. Our opening words this morning are offered by Nathan C. Walker. When you come to me, come not with the expectation to have some passive clergy person coddle you into complacency. No. Come to me as your PST, your personal spiritual trainer. I'm serious. I want to see you move. I want to see you root yourself in a community built on moral complexity and to hold one another to the ethic of intellectual honesty. I want to see you move beyond the religious hang-ups of your broken past and use your regenerative spirit to seize the day. I want to see you flex your moral muscles. I want to see you exercise spiritual practices to the point of training your mind and body and spirit to collaborate as a single, integrated, and dynamic entity. I want to hear you articulate your beliefs. I want to hear you articulate your faith to the point of having some moral relevance. I want to know that you are engaged in the moral issues of our time. I want to know what makes you afraid. I want to know if you are cultivating your doubts and your questions so that when you do take a stand, we can all trust your authenticity. I want to know the intricacies of how you are treating other people. Have you learned new ways to better your relationships? If so, please share them. I want to know if you have learned to like yourself. Have you learned to love yourself? I want to know if you feel alive. I want to know if you feel like you belong, like you feel you matter. Because to me, you do matter. You do. Because you are my personal spiritual trainers. Come, let us worship together.
Sing together hymn number 323, Break Not the Circle. If you're online, you can find the lyrics posted in the chat, and I invite you to stand in body and or spirit, and let's sing together. 323.
Break not the circle Good morning, Olympia UU. It is fantastic to be here together with you, and I find myself unexpectedly moved. My name is James Trujillo, and I have the honor of serving as the president of the Board of Trustees. This is crazy. I was not expecting this.
We are right here with you. It's not crazy at all.
And I also have the honor of serving as a co-chair for the stewardship campaign for this year. I want to lead my comments this morning, this early day of spring, on a note of celebration and gratitude. The Board of Trustees is pleased to share the news of a generous contribution from one of our long-standing members, George Lanning. George is an example of a member who has decided to cement his legacy into the growth and well-being of this Olympia UU community. George has given $100,000 to our Legacy Giving program, which is designed to fund large-scale capital projects and support the long-term financial health of our congregation. Please join me in thanking George for his most generous contribution. George is a person that has shared his time, talents, and gifts with Olympia UU and is adding to that loving legacy. Thank you again, George. And to be clear, this is not an operating fund stewardship gift, but a long-term investment to our Legacy Giving program. And speaking of operating funds, our pledge drive, Growing Community, is winding down to a close today. On behalf of the stewardship team, the Board of Trustees, and the beneficiaries of our community services, I want to thank all of you who have pledged your support. The majority of our community, over 150 individuals and families, have made their pledge to grow wonder, grow justice, and grow love. Our average annual gift has gone up by nearly $400 per pledging unit, and the majority have increased their gift. Thank you for funding your values and making the good works of our congregation come alive. Now, for those of you that have not yet had a chance to pledge, now is the time to get that done. There are around 138 pledgers that have yet to give and fill the remaining $189,000 left to hit our goal of $532,000. So please ask yourself, what are my values worth? What are your values worth? For the cost of dinner out for 2 per week, are you willing to support the spiritual growth of our community, fund our justice initiatives, and live our values by sharing your treasure? For the UUs of this community that I know, the answer is a resounding yes. So please, if you haven't pledged yet, please get your pledge in today. Thank you.
Each Sunday, as we engage in the spiritual practice of generosity by joining together in service to our community and to something greater than ourselves. The offering collected here does 2 things. It supports the ongoing work of OUUC, which is also supported by your regular pledges. This offering also supports an organization that serves our community in harmony with our Unitarian Universalist values. For the months of March and April, our Share the Plate recipient is the Olympia Mutual Aid Partners, or OLIMAP. The mission of OLIMAP is to support all people's right to a safe and warm place to call home. OLIMAP centers the voices of unhoused and marginalized people, challenges systems of oppression, builds bridges between unhoused and housed community members through our engagement and education. They provide health, safety, stability, and support to our neighbors living outdoors. Please note that you can participate in this offering by making a donation online through the church website or by texting the number that will appear on your screen in just a moment. You can also mail a check to OUUC or place your offering in one of the baskets. Our community partners continue to need our financial support. May the offering now be generously given as it is gratefully received.
Wake now, compassion. Give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering. Feel the wide sky. Take as your neighbor, both stranger and friend. Praying and striving their hardship to end. Oh, wake now, my conscience, with justice thy guide, and join with the people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race.
Thank you for your generous gifts. We came together in community this morning, bringing all that is in our lives. In this space, we draw on the strength of our community to hold all that we bring here with us. Here we share from our hearts what brings us joy and sorrow, what makes us worry, what brings us delight, what makes us afraid, and what makes us dance. Let's open our hearts to the complexity of life, our own and others. You will hear a drumbeat as we share today. It brings into our awareness that our individual hearts beat, and together we create the heartbeat of community. So right now, let's just take a deep breath in together as we open our hearts to receive the complexity of all that is in our community today. Our beloved George Lanning shares that he recently received a cancer diagnosis with a hard prognosis. It is early in the process of making decisions about what is next, but George has been living with the symptoms for several months. George's family is gathering to be with him and in anticipation of his 90th birthday celebration on April 16th. George, we send you our love and care as you move through this next part of your journey, in your amazing life. Connie Rule shares that her husband, Norm Dixon, moved from home to Garden Court Memory Care this week. The transition is difficult for both of them. Connie requests loving, soothing, and strengthening thoughts and energy to be sent to each of them. Connie, you and Norm have our love and care as you move through this transition. And today we offer our congratulations to Linda and Jim Crabtree and Brian and Fumiko Coyne. Both of these couples were married on March 26, 1965, so celebrated their 57th wedding anniversaries last weekend. Linda shared that she and Jim knew each other for 7 years before they were married, so they grew up together, and that they are opposites, which is what makes their marriage work. Brian shared that he and Fumiko married in a friend's meeting house in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and that their marriage certificate was signed by a Unitarian minister. Linda and Jim, Fumiko and Brian, we wish you joyous congratulations and blessings for many more years together. And last, proud grandparents Chris Park and Steve Tilley are happy to announce the arrival of their grandson, Cosmo William Lane. He was born to parents Claire Tilley and Adrian Lane on April 1st, weighing in at a little over 8 pounds. Baby, mother, father, and older brother Nico are all doing well. Congratulations, and Cosmo, welcome to this world. For those online, I invite you to share from your heart by entering in the chat on the screen. And this is a time to share all that you wish, joys and sorrows and whatever else is shared from your heart. And as we take in what is posted, let's hear the heartbeat of community and reach out our hearts in love and care to all those who share. And for those in person today, I invite you to come forward if there is something you would like to bring into the community. You may place a stone in the water as you hold your sharing in your heart. Please come forward through the center aisle and return to your seats by the side. We'll place a stone in the water for all that has been shared from the heart, a stone holding the complexity of our lives held in the water of community. And one more stone placed in the water for all that we hold in our hearts and that remains unspoken. I invite you now into a time of reflection, prayer, and meditation. Infinite web of life, spirit of love, great mystery from which we come and to which we return. Help us remember that we are not alone in our time of grief and sorrow. May we be comforted by the spirit of life and human hands. Help us remember that we are not alone in joy and wonder. May we share the beauty that we find in this world. Open our hearts to all that is in our lives. Open our minds to what is possible. Open our hands to share the work ahead. So may it be. Amen. Let's hold a moment of silence together.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving as love shows us how. Giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now, my reason. Reach out for the new. Join with each pilgrim who quest for the truth. Honor the beauty of wisdom and time. Suffer thy limits and praise the sublime. Suffer thy limits and praise the sublime.
Today's reading is an excerpt from Serving with Grace, Lay Leadership as a Spiritual Practice by Eric Walker Wickstrom. Our congregations are voluntary associations and depend on our donations, not just of our financial resources, but of our time and talents as well. In fact, even if our members pledge sufficient support that every single task could be farmed out to paid employees, the church would still need volunteers because that's the nature of a volunteer association. We also get involved in leadership because it feels good. We meet people and form friendships, becoming more fully integrated into the community. Some of us stop there, of course, satisfying our own need for a sense of belonging. Yet at this point, there's also a doorway for service as a spiritual practice. As Gary Kowalski put it in a sermon, people who come to Unitarian Universalists seeking spiritual goods are likely to be disappointed as long as they have the outlook of consumers in search of material goods. If their connection to our liberal faith is to grow into something more rewarding, they have to give up the consumer mindset and begin to think of themselves instead as shareholders, investors, co-owners in what happens in the church. There may be more challenges inherent in serving as a leader in church than, say, in volunteering once a month in a local soup kitchen. Yet the greater challenges, perhaps the greater rewards. Service within the context of your church means working with a group of people who understand your Unitarian Universalist values and commitments and will hold you accountable to them. This ends our reading.
Wake now my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
Two months from now, on June 4th, we're going to have a big party. And everybody is invited. Everybody is invited. It's one of several fun events we have coming up, and who do we need some fun? We'll have the annual auction dinner on May 14th with an online auction the week before. On May 22nd, we'll welcome Sarah Lewis back from sabbatical and celebrate her ordination as an interfaith chaplain. And on June 4th, we will celebrate the 70th anniversary of OUUC and celebrate my installation as your settled minister. It has been almost 20 years since this congregation installed a settled minister. It was on April 28th, 2002, that OUUC installed Reverend Arthur Vaney. And we know there's a little bit that's changed since then. So today I want to say a bit about what an installation is and how we can prepare for it. But first I want to tell a bit of OUUC's story so we have a sense of where we came from and what we've come through. So first, some history. On October 6th, 1952, a UFO was sighted in Olympia, Washington, when, as part of the fellowship movement to expand our faith in the West, the Unitarian Fellowship of Olympia was recognized. Yeah, bad pun. I couldn't avoid that pun, really. A small group gathered in rented space on Sunday evenings twice a month for lay-led meetings that included philosophical discussion and intellectual exploration. Over the years, the fellowship grew quickly through word of mouth and some publicity. Some people had been members of Unitarian congregations elsewhere and found UFO through the Yellow Pages or newspaper ads. Others were seeking a community and a place to raise their families. Some wanted to explore their own spirituality, and still others joined because of the activism and civic engagement of the members. In 1968, the fellowship purchased its own building in Tumwater for the grand sum of $10,000 in cash, a historic building that is still there. It was not an easy or unanimous decision to purchase a building. Some thought it was a waste of money that could be used for other purposes. Church history says that it caused a schism, with some members leaving the fellowship. Members also wondered about sharing the work of the fellowship with a minister. Some felt they needed more structure and the support of a professional. Not everyone felt this way, and there was heated discussion. But those wanting structure and support won out, and in 1978, the fellowship asked Bill Arnsmeyer, a UFO member and trained Methodist minister, to serve quarter-time. About a year after that, the fellowship looked for a more permanent minister, and in 1979 asked Roger Kurt to serve them quarter-time. Roger was ordained in the United Church of Christ, an intellectual who focused on self-actualization and social activism. The history from 1982 tells of the first service auction held that November, the precursor to our annual auction that we have now. And when Roger left in 1985, the fellowship did their first formal search for their next minister. After a year of lay leadership, UFO members invited Donna DeShulo to join them. Donna was a new minister, but not new to Unitarian Universalism. She helped the congregation discern their identity, and in 1986, the Unitarian Fellowship of Olympia became the Olympia Unitarian Universalist Congregation. And when Donna unexpectedly left the area in 1989, once again the fellowship was seeking a minister. They found Sandra Lee, also a new Unitarian Universalist minister. Church history describes Sandra as the most complex and controversial minister yet. During her ministry, Sandra brought in professional musicians and helped OUUC become a welcoming congregation to the LGBTQ community. She transitioned the organization to a more formal structure and hired the first staff, Darlene Sarkala for the office, and later Troy Fisher for music. Both are still here. The congregation continued to grow, and in 1993 achieved the dream of designing and building their own home, the first building that was here. Sandra's husband, Don, is described as finding creative ways to help fund the new building. With a booming children's program, the new building was soon outgrown, so members purchased the house and land next door, which was immediately put to beneficial use, housing the religious education classes and later serving as the Out of the Woods shelter. But not everyone was comfortable or happy with Sandra's style or with Don's involvement in church finances. After months of conflict and controversy, Sandra resigned in 1999. Her departure caused a schism, with some members leaving to form the All Souls Fellowship in Olympia, which disbanded just last summer. And financial matters were more closely monitored and brought under the control of a congregant-led finance committee. In 1999, OUUC invited its first interim minister, an intentionally short ministry, to help with transition. Shirley Rank is described as a calm bridge, helping the congregation become ready for their next minister. OUUC members called Arthur Vaney as the first full-time minister in 2001, just a week before 9/11. Arthur is described as bringing a vision of congregational life and justice to OUUC. He invited a group of houseless people to the parking lot, Camp Quixote. He focused his energies on interfaith leadership, social action, and the spiritual life of OUUC members. The board, committees, and lay leaders managed most of the administrative aspects of the church. And during this time, the congregation continued to grow. So in 2010, remodeled and expanded the building to its current size. With growth, the congregation moved from a pastoral size with the minister at the center to a program-sized congregation with programs at the center of things, a shift that continues to this day. 2012 brought more tension to the congregation. A staffer had legal troubles that were not related to their position at OUUC, but affected their position. And when Arthur took personnel actions that included placing the staffer on administrative leave, some members were angry with the disruption, angry with Arthur and the board. Some were supportive of the actions, and others left the congregation. The congregation was divided, with some broken relationships and broken trust. And when the legal troubles were cleared and the staffer returned in 2013, the echoes of that conflict could still be heard. Toward the end of Arthur's ministry, the congregation explored a new model of governance, or how to share power and make decisions. The congregation voted to change the bylaws to support this new model of governance, policy governance, placing more authority with the board and more responsibility with the staff. And when Arthur retired in 2014, he was OUUC's longest-serving minister, and congregants grieved his leaving. Some still do. OUUC invited another transitional minister, Emily Melcher, who said that the goal of her ministry was to disrupt things, and that she did. Emily moved the congregation even further into the new governance model, disbanding many long-standing committees and the program council that coordinated them. The organizational structure changed, and many things shifted in preparation for a new, settled minister. But that ministry was short-lived. Thomas Perchlik was at OUUC for about 7 months before leaving in 2016 as the result of a negotiated resignation, which is a mutual agreement for a minister to leave the settlement. Not only were the hopes of the congregation for a new minister dashed, but there was controversy again. While the new governance model gave the board the authority to make this decision and to protect the confidentiality of this personnel action, some were upset that the entire congregation was not consulted. Some were happy with Thomas's ministry and confused by his leaving. Others fully supported the board's decision. After that, OUUC members invited another transitional minister, Eric Posa, to help further the governance shift, to help make sense of what had happened and to re-examine the wishes for the future. In 2017, the congregation also voted to sell the house and land next door, saying goodbye to the out-of-the-woods shelter. Some still grieve that decision. And during this transitional time, the congregation entered into an extended period of reflection and discernment about their future and what kind of ministry they wanted. In the spring of 2019, OUUC searched for a settled minister, and on May 5th, the congregation voted to call me as the minister for the next leg of the journey. So let's just pause there to take a breath. We just galloped through almost 70 years of congregational history. When I arrived in August of 2019, following the years of disruption and transition, I heard a longing for unity and cohesion, for stability and calm, for a way forward, a desire to be of purpose and to be relevant in the community again. Some expressed a desire to return to the sense of purpose that existed during Arthur's ministry. Others had never known that time and just wanted to feel a sense of moving forward to a new future with calm and purposeful action. I shared that longing for purposeful action too. My heart ached when I saw that leaders and staff were understandably exhausted from carrying the congregation through tumultuous change and transition. Many were weary of uncertainty, disruption, and turmoil. Others were weary of waiting for that new minister. There was a long list of things that were pending. Before too long, I noticed uncertainty about the role of the minister and what our relationship would be. There was uncertainty and differences of opinion about how decisions should be made and who should make them. It was unclear who set the priorities of the congregation, who developed the vision and mission, who decided new projects. I noticed that I had different expectations about our roles and how governance could work. So I reached out for help with understanding the history of this congregation, listening to many, many stories. The board and I used a consultant to better understand the new governance model that had been wished for here and how it worked in other congregations. There were the glimmerings of movement forward, or at least a path. We were beginning to build relationships and trust, beginning to build a shared ministry. And then suddenly in early 2020, everything changed. With the global pandemic, all of our attention and energy shifted from moving forward to individual and collective safety and the health of the OUUC community. Now, 2 years into this crisis, I believe we have done remarkably well. It's not ideal to connect virtually, but it has helped us stay connected, and we have done a really good job of using all the technology. I am so grateful to the staff and many volunteers who have come forward to lead groups and classes, welcome visitors online, and provide tech support. The board and many teams continue to meet and do their important work, much of it online. There are some who have not felt quite as connected, and I hope that that will shift as we slowly move to more in-person engagement. That's James's tears this morning and mine when I heard our voices rise in song in this sanctuary today. We all know that the pandemic is not done with us yet, and we are doing a really good job of managing this in-between time. That we have some fun events coming up is a testament to hope for the future. Despite the uncertainty of the pandemic, some of my uncertainty about things at OUUC has cleared. I still have questions, wonderings about how things might work. I know many of you do too. I have leaned on the board and other consultants to help me learn more, and I formed a ministry development team this past year to help imagine how we might move forward. I am grateful to Fritz Reedy, Connie Rule, and Tiffany Felch for their wisdom and guidance. I've learned and grown a lot these past 3 years, and my heart has opened in ways that I never could have imagined. You are indeed my personal spiritual trainers. What I know is that OUUC is in the early stages of learning a new way of making decisions and sharing power. The process of implementing a new governance model at OUUC was slowed by many minister and lay leader transitions. And we know more now about how policy-based governance is used in congregations, that each one does it differently. And I believe that over time we can find a way to make it work here. We took a big step last year a big step forward in creating a new vision, mission, and goals for the difference we want to make in the world and in our lives. Next year, we can look forward to revisiting our congregational covenant. I know we can do this work together, and that we can do it from a place of love and care. I also know that the transition from a pastoral to a program-sized church is still in process. We've made much progress, and there are still shifts in how we do things and how we think about things that remain. In other words, there is good and important work to do, work we can do together. The history of this congregation doesn't predict the future, but we can learn from it. We can see that each phase of the congregation's story gave cause for joyous celebration and had its challenges. We can see that people join a faith community for reasons that last through time, for community and connection, for spiritual growth for themselves and their families, for coming together to make the world a better place. And we can see that there are predictable things that cause uncertainty and conflict. Buildings and space, the purpose of gathering, power and decision-making, ministers and ministry. And that brings us to the upcoming events on June 4th. On that day, we will celebrate the 70th anniversary of this congregation, from UFO to OUUC. And we will celebrate that you and I found each other and our covenantal relationship. While the vote to call me as your minister on May 5th, 2019 was a legal act, if you will, the service of installation is a spiritual act that recognizes the covenant between a congregation and a minister. Usually, the installation service is done in the first or second year of a new ministry. Our ministry together has been anything but usual. And so we'll do the service of installation at the end of the third year with humility and joy. To me, the act of installation is a solemn and joyous occasion. The promises that we make to each other are the container that holds us as we do the important work of the congregation together. It holds our shared ministry. And for me, what is even more important than the promises we make is the efforts to live out those promises. None of us can promise that there won't be differences of opinion or uncertainty. We can promise to stay in relationship as we work it out. There is a mighty group of volunteers who are working hard to create a meaningful celebration on June 4th. I am so grateful for the many hands that have come forward. Zoe Myers is leading a robust group of people working on all the many details for that day. And so if you are interested in helping, please reach out to Zoe. Tim Ransom, Emily Ray, and Lee Doyle are collecting the history of OUUC over the past 10 years, planning an event for the afternoon of May 1st to help gather stories of the past and hopes for the future. No matter how long you have been a part of this community, even if you just came today, you are welcome to add your part. So look for more information in the weeks to come and look for the 70th anniversary display on June 4th. And over this next month, you are invited to reflect on and share your thoughts and feelings about your relationship with your minister. Neil Weinberg, Martha Nikoloff, Helen Henry, and Don Melnick will offer opportunities to gather and discuss. The dates for those opportunities are in today's order of service and will be on the OUUC website, on the calendar. Today's reflection questions are the start of that process of discussion. And again, on May 1st, right after the service, we'll have a time for congregational input into our shared ministry. Out of that sharing of our hopes and dreams, members of the worship arts team and I will craft the promises that we will make to each other during the service of installation on June 4th. As we move into the next phase of OUUC's story, we can continue to be in relationship and continue to build trust, exploring our shared ministry. We have been doing that all along, of course. It's an ongoing process that never ends. I am grateful for what you have taught me, and I look forward to growing together. I am honored to be with you for this part of OUUC's story, and I offer blessings for the future of this congregation and at least another 70 years. Our spiritual theme for the month of April is wonder from the OUUC mission. Over these next few weeks, as we reflect and re-emerge, I invite us to cultivate a spirit of curiosity and wonder. Who knows what might arise to surprise and delight us? Let's just take a breath together. And as we breathe and take in these words, let's hold just a moment of silence together.
Let's enjoy one more time the wonder of singing together. Hymn number 131, Love Will Guide Us. I invite you to rise as you embody and/or spirit. And if you're online, the lyrics can be found posted in the chat. 131, Love Will Guide Us. As our service comes to a close today, please remember that breakout rooms will gather next, and we'll have the sanctuary blessing here at noon. Let's extinguish our chalices with these words from Gordon B. McKeeman. Ministry is all that we do together. We who minister speak and live the best we know with full knowledge that it is never quite enough, and yet are reassured by lostness found, fragments reunited, wounds healed, and joy shared. Yeah. Ministry is what we all do together. May we move in peace. Let's join together in singing our unison benediction.